Hello, sisters. This will be the first of my mindfulness videos to go on our group, the mental health group. I'm going to try to go slowly when I speak so that the Brazilian sisters will have a chance to be able to understand a little better. If any of you Portuguese speaking sisters want to add an audio to the group that translates what I say, perfectly fine. Or if you want to do a video, any way you want to translate, you feel you can help with translation, then please go ahead and do that. I've decided to put the videos on YouTube, and so the link to the YouTube video will go on the WhatsApp group, because that makes it easier to be able to go back to a video that you remember and back to that reference. It makes it a lot easier than having to search it within the discussion within WhatsApp. The first week I was thinking the best thing to do is to talk about the journey that brought me to here. And that is about 3 years ago, I had a complete mental breakdown out of nowhere. It just happened with no seeming cause. And suddenly I just had really bad anxiety, and I'd never experienced anxiety in my life before, ever. But it also came then with health challenges, and it seemed like a perfect storm of all these things happening together. And I was listening at the time to a podcast on LDS Living called All In, and one of the guests was called Thomas Worthlin McConkie, and he is related to Joseph B. Worthlin, who is an apostle, and Bruce R. McConkie. And he was talking about his journey with mindfulness, and I didn't really understand what it was. So he stopped going to church when he was 13, and he spent most of his life in other countries when he was older, exploring Buddhism. And as he explored Buddhism more and more, he came to realize that it brought him back to his original gospel roots, that everything that Buddhism taught him about meditation and life and the earth, nature, tied back into the habits and the gospel principles that he had already learned when he was younger. And so he ended up coming back to the church, and he now puts Buddhism, and they call it Dharma, with the gospel, and he kind of puts the two together and applies what he learned within Buddhism to how he is living the gospel. So he's not a member, as it were, of the Buddhist faith. He just understands how those lines cross back to the gospel. So I'm going to put a link to the video, the interview that he had. It's going to be part 1 of explaining what mindfulness is, and then next week will be part 2 with a different person that will explain what mindfulness is as regards to also our daily faith and our daily religion and our spiritual habits. So the point of mindfulness is basically 2 main points. It's a bit different than meditation. Number 1 is that it's about bringing your mind, if you've got all these thoughts in your mind and it's really hard to stop thinking all the time, your brain's going 60 miles an hour, which happens with anxiety and depression. Your brain goes to negativity a lot easier than it does to positivity. And so the point of mindfulness is to teach you basically like tuning in a radio, how to tune that dial in your brain back to one point, into one center, and then be fully, completely present in that moment. Because when you are suddenly draw away from these thoughts, you bring yourself back to a sensory experience of where am I? What can I see? What can I hear? What can I feel? What can I smell? What can I taste? It has a scientific, a scientific way of stopping your brain from thinking all those other things. So that's the first one, to bring yourself back to the present. Number 2 is that it also teaches you to not put off suffering. If you feel like you want to cry, you feel any emotion that you consider to be negative, our human reaction is to bury it and to not experience it, or to say, I can't feel this right now, I'm going to put it off, and just put it off and put it off. And what happens is, as you avoid suffering, the suffering builds on top of each other, and it ultimately impacts the suffering and makes it so that when eventually it does come out, it may come out in a very big, explosive, grand and very damaging way. And so mindfulness is about teaching you to take these little parts of suffering that you have in your lives, your trials, your afflictions, your negative thoughts, and to experience them and acknowledge them and say, you know what, this is how my mind needs to be right now. This is how my feelings need to be. I need to cry right now. Not to put them off, but to experience them and then to move on from them and to let them go. So they're the 2 main principles of mindfulness. So I will put the podcast link. It's from a YouTube video, but there's no visual. It's just all audio. I want you to listen to it, see what you think. You Brazilian sisters, if you aren't quite understanding all the English, talk to each other. Have a discussion about, okay, what was this and what was this point and what was that point. Unfortunately, the transcript for the audio is no longer available. Some of the podcasts I put on here will have a transcript and you'll be able to translate into Portuguese. But unfortunately, this episode is so old that the transcript's no longer available. So comment, see how you get on. I want you to take this next week till next Wednesday thinking about the fact that mindfulness is about being present and about not putting off suffering, but to experience it and to move on from it. And tell me what you think. Tell me what thoughts the Spirit has told you in the podcast. When I listened to this, the Spirit told me very clearly, Amy, you need to learn this principle. It will be really important for your life. And after that is when basically everything started happening, all the really bad trials in my life. So I knew it was the Spirit that was telling me. And mindfulness does not fix everything. It's not a quick fix. It took me at least 3 months to get to the point of doing it regularly, daily, twice a day, morning and night, where I felt like my thoughts were being calmer, more peaceful. And I've been doing it now for 3 years, every morning and every night. And it just really helps to ground me in the morning and to get rid of negative energy at night or in the evening. So listen to it, see how you get on, and put comments, discussions in the WhatsApp group. So I hope you have a great week getting on with this. Bye.